Hey everybody, welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Devin.
And wow, it's been a day. Technical difficulties out the wazoo. Ryan will join us shortly, hopefully. Yeah.
At least you hear me now, though. That's all that
Third
matters.
time's the charm. So we're going to start off the show. We start off the show every week talking about things that we watch in pop culture. So before we get into today's main topic, the Father of the Bride film starring Steve Martin and Martin Short, we're going to talk about things we saw in pop culture this past week. Devin, you forgot to tell me which plays you saw. So tell me about the plays you saw.
I keep forgetting about that. So I saw two plays this week. The first one was As You Like It, which I saw at the Shakespeare Globe, which was incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's one of those where when you see Shakespeare done well, it all kind of clicks, right? When you read Shakespeare, it's a little bit heady. It's a little bit hard to get through. It's hard to kind of parse what they mean sometimes because Shakespeare just invents words. But when you see a proper Shakespeare comedy on stage done well by people who clearly care about the material and understand that it kind of needs modernized a little bit, phenomenal. I'd recommend it to anyone. And the other one I saw was Mike Birbiglia's The Old Man in the Pool, which he's so good. He's like he keeps. I saw him in Pennsylvania, I saw him in Los Angeles, and I saw him here, and three very different shows, but he just keeps getting better. Like he is so good at telling a story and weaving in jokes and bringing this really emotional core to his stand-up. It's phenomenal. It's so good.
Do you classify what he does as stand-up, or is it a one-man show?
I'd say it's more of a one-man show, to be entirely honest, because it's just the big story he tells the whole time. I don't know what that was.
It's one of those nights. Like,
yeah, man.
I'm waiting for this poster to fall behind me. So,
if nobody saw, my mic just dropped. I don't know
why. What a disaster. Yeah. Have you seen any of his movies?
I saw Sleepwalk with Me.
Okay. I don't think Ryan has. I feel like that's one he would enjoy.
We have to do that one.
Yeah.
And
it's been on my list for a while.
Oh, good. He was the dad in something I watched too, unexpectedly, that we watched on the podcast. What was he the dad in?
He was in Trainwreck. Was it that? I don't know what else he was in.
It wasn't Trainwreck because I haven't seen Trainwreck still.
Okay.
No, I have. It was Trainwreck. That was it. Yep, I've seen Trainwreck.
He was like the brother-in-law.
That was exactly it. Yep.
Okay. Ryan is working on his technical issues on his end. So with that, we're going to talk about the latest Star Wars show that Devin hasn't seen, but I'm gonna continue to try to sell him on this.
Okay, good.
And that is Ahsoka, starring Rosario Dawson. Devin, why haven't you watched Ahsoka again? Remind the people at home.
So, really two reasons. The first reason is that I didn't watch Rebels, and I feel like Rebels is definitely something you need to watch because it continues her story, and I think this takes place after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have homework to do before I watch it. The second one is, and I'm going to be a little honest, I'm a little bit burnt out on Star Wars stuff. Like I couldn't get through all of Andor. I barely got through Kenobi.
Okay. Kenobi is one thing. Andor, you need to watch all of Andor. Like,
okay,
this is some of the best Star Wars since Andor, and Andor some of the best Star Wars since Rogue One.
Okay, I need to revisit Rogue One. Keep in mind because I don't like it.
You don't like Rogue? Oh yeah, that's right. Watch Andor. Don't rewatch Rogue One.
Okay.
Just watch Andor because it all leads to Rogue One. It'll give you a new appreciation for Rogue One.
Because I've seen like episode 1 of Andor and it's just fine.
You have to watch it in 3-episode chunks.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And now that we're talking about Andor, 2 words: Andy Serkis.
Is he in that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you have to watch Andor to get to him.
Okay, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
But sell me on Ahsoka. Like sell me
Okay.
on why
Have
this
you
show is good.
have you watched Clone Wars? I know you said you didn't
Yes.
watch Rebels. So you
I
watched
have.
Clone Wars, so you're familiar with Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Spoilers for Ahsoka episode 5 because they
Okay.
did a thing where Ahsoka meets her former master in a place called the World Between Worlds. So pretty much Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost. And he's like, I got one more lesson to teach you, Snips. And they revisit the Clone Wars, and so you could see young Ahsoka in live action with Anakin Skywalker in the costumes from the Clone Wars. And you mentioned a moment that you saw from this episode where it's Anakin walking into fog, and you said that. What did you say the caption said for that moment?
This is the best. This might be the single best shot in Star Wars.
So
This is the caption I saw.
So that caption, I'm going to set the scene for you. So Ahsoka wakes up in the Clone Wars. Like, this is the Clone Wars. He's like, yeah, no kidding. And walks off into battle. As he's walking off into battle and there's explosions in front of him, there's a flash and you just see the silhouette of Darth Vader. And he keeps walking.
That's very cool.
So if that's not enough to get you to watch it,
can I just watch this episode?
Can I
hop in at 5?
maybe like, if you've seen the Clone Wars, you'll definitely appreciate it. You'll probably be a little bit lost on the World Between Worlds, but who isn't? I've watched Rebels and I still don't completely understand what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
I highly recommend it. Once we're done with this, I'm probably gonna go rewatch it.
Oh wow.
And the other thing that I want to sell you on with Ahsoka is Ahsoka has become a stand-in for a character from another franchise that I know you like, and I don't know if I want to tell you what it is. But I want you to watch this episode, and once you tell me you watch this episode, I'm going to send you one message, and you're going to know exactly what I mean.
Really? So
Yes.
she's a stand-in for another character in another.
They do a
show.
thing that's symbolic from another franchise. I'm like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing there.
Is it Kieran Culkin from Secession?
No, but it is not. It's not that Roman Empire.
Darn.
So, yeah, I feel like there's a very reference that they make that I think you'll appreciate. So
Okay, good. Where would you rate Ahsoka in terms of like all the new Star Wars stuff that comes out? So we'll exclude like the movies, like the big numbered ones, but in terms of any of the TV shows that came
of
out,
the Disney
like
Plus, better than Boba Fett.
Mandalorian.
I'd say it's on par with Mando seasons 1 and 2. I like 3, so it's about even with Mando. It's not as good as Andor. It's better than Kenobi. As much as I love moments of Kenobi, it just kind of dragged on. This show, once it gets to what it's doing, makes it worth it.
Okay.
All right. Looks like Ryan's coming back, so we're back on our show.
There he is. Dancing.
So I'd say it's higher tier Disney Plus Star Wars, where like Kenobi's like mid tier, and then Book of Boba Fett's like the last.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree based off what I came into.
Yeah.
That's basically what you came into. I mean, he spoiled a little bit of episode 5 for me, and said that this is probably some of the best Star Wars that we've gotten so far.
I told him he could watch just episode 5 and be fine.
You think so?
I mean, if you're looking for how much of the Clone Wars did you watch?
All of it.
Okay, watch episode 5.
Mhm.
That'll be like putting your toe in the pool to see if you like the temperature.
Okay.
And if you like that temperature, then go watch Rebels. Go watch Rebels.
So hold on. I watched Clone Wars, but I skipped all of the droid episodes and all of the Jar Jar Binks episodes. Is there a watch of Rebels that's like that, where I can skip
how many Jar Jar Binks episodes are there? Like 3?
Like 3? Basically, if you Google what are essential Clone Wars episodes, they'll point you at like 5 per season and go watch those.
There is a playlist on Disney Plus of Ahsoka-centric episodes of Rebels.
Oh.
I would watch those if you don't want to commit to the whole show, and the finale of Rebels, the last episodes, and then watch all of Ahsoka.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a less of a commitment for you. But I think you could, if you don't want to do that first, you can watch episode 5 and then go back.
Okay.
The machete order of Ahsoka and Rebels.
Perfect.
And then you have people like me that are just going to tell you to go watch Rebels.
Yeah, I just feel like Rebels is a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah.
In the start.
But you like slow burns.
That's true. Just being a pain.
So, Ryan, you had Elemental. Do you want to talk about that briefly before we move on to today's main topic?
Yeah. So, I know it didn't do well in theaters. My wife and I have always enjoyed the previews for it, so we decided to watch it last night. I really enjoyed it. It is what it appears to be. It is a movie with a social message to it. It is lighthearted. It is fun. They did a lot of work putting this world together that these elements live in. I highly recommend it. I mean, it's good. I mean, are there movies that do what this movie does better story-wise? Yes. But this movie's cute and it's fun, so I recommend it.
All right. Yeah. This movie's gotten a little bit of legs since it left theaters. So
I wonder why there was so much not hate for it, but people just ambivalence towards it.
The box office this whole summer was kind of down.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because of the strikes and people not being able to advertise stuff or what. But yeah, all of the box office numbers are down. It was a weird summer for the box office.
I have strong opinions about why that is, but I'm not gonna get into that.
We'll do a separate
Fair enough.
bit.
Devin, in the chat, Romana versus the game asks, why do you not like Rogue One?
Why do I not like Rogue One?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I don't like Rogue One because they have this really cool plot for a movie, and then they hide it behind 30 minutes of unnecessary Saw Gerrera. And they're
they don't.
They do. 100% they do. They're like, we gotta go steal the Death Star plans. Hold on.
This is why you need to watch Rebels, because he comes up in not just Clone Wars, he comes up in Rebels as well.
Yeah.
He is a very important person in the Rebel fight against the Empire, and he is a linchpin between the I guess you would call moderate rebels and the extreme rebels. He's that bottom basement of cocktail through a window person.
And you know what? I can totally understand that. I think part of it was my introduction to Saw Gerrera was Rogue One. I went, oh, he's basically Darth Vader, but for the good guys. They're showing how the good guys could basically make a Darth Vader and what the dangers are of that. I can't wait for him to fight Darth Vader and for it to be both a symbolic and a literal battle. That's going to be really interesting. Oh, he died in a sandstorm.
No.
Okay. Tune in next week where we talk about Rogue One.
If you would have seen even the Clone Wars,
I want to put a pin in this.
Sorry.
Let's put a pin in this. We're going to have to do Rogue One again and make Devin rewatch it and tell him why he's wrong.
I'm totally fine with that.
Actually, no, that makes sense because next week the creator comes out, which is from the director of Rogue One. So
then we got to
tie it.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll be next week. So yay, Star Wars. Now on to something completely different. Father of the Bride. The reason we're doing Father of the Bride parts 1, 2, 3 in the SNL sketch,
all of it.
A lot of it. There's a lot of Father of the Bride stuff. The internet decided to ask the question, is Martin Short funny? Somebody wrote an op-ed piece where they just tore Martin Short's whole career a new one and said he's not funny. And then Luke Skywalker himself, see, it still ties into Star Wars, came in and was like, no, Martin Short's hysterical. Shut up.
Yeah.
So
I'm mad about this.
So the reason we're talking about this is Father of the Bride was my introduction to not only Martin Short but Steve Martin. These movies were something that I watched. My mom watched when I was a kid, so this is my introduction to their style of comedy, them as a comedic duo. And so we're going to talk about these films and then the career of Martin Short, and established by the end of this episode, hopefully, is Martin Short funny?
Good. Good.
So we're going to start off with the first Father of the Bride, starring Martin Short, Diane Keaton, and Steve Martin. Ryan, you've seen these films before. Devin has not.
Yes.
Ryan, what is your history with these films?
These films I saw in passing when I was growing up. They weren't really on either of my parents' like favorite movie list. My dad was always a big Steve Martin fan, but like SNL Steve Martin and Man with Two Brains Steve Martin. That was my introduction to him. And then these movies were just kind of like, oh, there's a Steve Martin movie on, but we would never like finish it, or we catch it in like the middle and then watch all the way through. It wasn't until I met Kristen that I actually got to watch these movies all the way through. I mean, I like them. I would still though pick like The Jerk, or The Man of Two Brains, and movies like that to watch prior on my own to then watching like these right away.
Yeah, I think the other reason I chose these ones is weddings have been on my mind a lot lately. Tomorrow's my wedding anniversary. Oh, thank you. And my brother's getting married in 2 weeks. So next weekend. Yeah, next weekend.
Holy cow! Wow.
Yeah. So weddings have been on my mind lately. So figured this was a good way to get that out of my system. So, Devin, this was your first watch of Father of the Bride. What did you think of the film?
Alan, I have a confession to make.
Yes, you've seen this movie
Father
before.
of the Bride. We did Father of the Bride on this podcast.
Did we?
We did it on our 1991 triple feature.
We did, didn't we?
And I didn't realize it until I started watching it and went, this looks very familiar. And then Romana found the episode and sent me the proof thing. So that's why I dug so deep into this.
Okay, well, that's good. Because so we've talked about that before. Go back and listen to our 1991 episode. You can skip that graphic. Let's move on to Father of the Bride Part 2. Well, no. So real quick, since we have reviewed it before, having rewatched them both for this, Father of the Bride is a very heartwarming film. I think Steve Martin is a great leading man, plays a father very well. I think Franck is a very interesting choice of a character for Martin Short.
About him. Yeah.
And I meant to send you guys a clip, but I forgot. But yeah, of the two films, Father of the Bride 1 is not my favorite.
No, same. Exactly the same. I like 2 so much better.
Brian, how about you?
Honestly, I'm kind of on the fence with either one of them. I think I like them both kind of equally, mainly because the first one reminds me, there's a point in this movie in the first one that reminds me, and I don't think I talked about this when we did the triple feature because I don't think we had time, that reminds me of a freak out my dad had once at a car dealership.
Was it with the buns?
Yeah. So when Steve Martin has he's snapped and he's like taking the buns out of the hot dog packages.
Yeah.
And he does that whole thing. So this was before my parents bought our third car. And like my dad had a car from like 88, 89 that he used for like he didn't want to get rid of. So like we needed to get like a second car that wasn't like meant for like long distance travel. So that's why we're looking for another one. And he just been like, I'd been with him all day from one dealership to another, and he'd be looking at one car and looking at this and looking at what like the MSRP is supposed to be, then like not finding it because the dealers were marking up the cars and putting features in it that he didn't want, and he just had enough. And then my mom got home and she wanted to go out and look for cars too, and he's like, I don't want to, and she said no, but there's a dealership you didn't go to. So we went, and it was a Saturn dealership. My dad got out and he looked at a Saturn SUV, and he walked over to it, and the salesman saw us park and walked out, and my dad turned around and said, "You sons of you marked everything up. This is ridiculous. The MSRP is supposed to be this, but you had all this crap in here that nobody wants and marked this stuff up and make it the only choices on the lot." And he was like turning red. And then the guy's like, sir, calm down. And he like got other people to come out to talk to my dad. And then he came out with a pamphlet, and I could hear the guys like, I think you should leave, and gave my dad a pamphlet for the SUV, and we went right home.
Oh, wow.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
Wow.
It was great. It was a great time.
So, Brian, you bring up a good point. I related to Steve Martin's character more in the first one than I did in the second one. There were definite moments that Steve Martin's character went through that I went, I've done that. That's been me.
So there's something interesting when that happens when you watch part one. You watch the first one and then part two. Mm-hmm. There's a paradigm shift. Whereas the first one's a straightforward, like almost like a romantic comedy. Like it's a heartwarming family story. For some reason, and I think it just play up to the strengths of Steve Martin and Martin Short. Part two is just all physical comedy. And I think that's why I like this. Like originally, when I was like, I want to just do Father of the Bride Part 2. I like that one, but we haven't done one. So I'm glad that I can just rename this whole episode Part of the Bride Part 2.
Oh, perfect.
The physical comedy in this is some of the best. And there are moments in this that me and my siblings quote like every family dinner, like, please pass the rolls, and then one of us passes out, like usually me, pretends to pass out on the table. For me, it's the physical comedy of this. Like it's Steve Martin like freaking out about Eugene Levy trying to knock down the house. It's the whole going to the hospital for the last time. All of that. That's what made me appreciate these guys as comedians. What are your thoughts, Devin and Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see what you're talking about. And I think the thing I liked about this movie more is that they had more time to play off of each other. In Father of the Bride 1, Martin Short was the wedding planner, and that was kind of it. And he was relegated to the scenes that make sense for a wedding planner to be in, and that was fine. But in this one, like, he's like part of the family. Like, he's with the family while they're holding their newborn children. Like,
yeah.
It's like, you know, grandpa, grandma, grandpa, father, Martin Short's character for some reason. And they make him a really big part of it. And parts of it did genuinely make me laugh more so than the first one, which I was like, I appreciate the joke that he's telling here. This one actually, especially for me, I don't know what he does at home with them all day. And it like hard cuts to them doing like jazzercising in the living room. It's so good.
Like
hello.
He goes from being someone they hire to help them out on something, and then you just like you kind of assume that like that's how Martin Short's character is with everyone. And then in the second movie, it's more like he's becoming a family friend. Like this is more than just them hiring him to like build on the nursery, which they do. But like Steve Martin goes to like of naming their child Frank if it's a boy. Like it gets to that point, and that's really cool. It's just I love to hate Steve Martin's character in the first one, and I think that's why I rate them both at the same like level. Like I love that his character annoys me so much of being the protective dad, and then it's him like learning to stop being that person.
Yeah.
And I where he begins the movie and where he ends the movie on the first one. And to me, that whole experience is as enjoyable to watch as the physical comedy from the second one.
Okay.
Here's what made the first one stick with me and why I was so related to the first one is because, Alan, I want to know if this has happened to you. Have you ever been Steve Martin in that situation where one of your sisters brings home a guy and you're just like, never good enough for my sister? And like, you know, I know who your sisters are collectively married to. I don't suspect you would have had it with them, but like if there were any boyfriends in the past or anything like that, like have you ever had that feeling? Because I've had it 100% with mine where I'm like, never good enough for my sister. And like I've had that same feeling that Steve Martin has. It made me relate to his character right away.
I think I'm always a little bit like weary at first,
Sure.
but I've been lucky enough that my brother-in-laws are both awesome.
They
and
are,
my,
though.
And my future sister-in-law, because my brother's getting married next week.
Incredible.
That I like it. It's like, what's going on here? Okay, you're cool. Like it's
Yeah.
very
pretty
quick,
quick.
into that. So, but I can see my dad being a little bit of Steve Martin.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
So
I can't relate to that specifically.
Sure.
And the three of us can't really relate to the whole being a father in our 40s thing either.
No.
At least not yet, because none of us are in our 40s.
I've got 2 years. I've got 2 years.
You're sprinting there, Ryan.
Yeah. So the whole premise of this is that the daughter who gets married in the first one is having a baby. So George Banks is becoming a grandfather, and then has like a midlife crisis, dyes his hair. It's like the one of two times you see Steve Martin with dark hair on screen ever, because that man aged horribly in the 70s, and has had
Straight away.
gray hair as long as I've been alive, because I was born in 91, and that's why we did the 91 episode, now that you reminded me of it. So the movie deals with that, and then that leads to him and his wife expecting a child, because now there's 2 buns in the oven, and hijinks ensue, which is just it's a ridiculous premise.
I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
I didn't know what this was about and just assumed it was just about the daughter getting pregnant. I didn't see the other twist, or Devin didn't read the description. Didn't see the other part of it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing some research on it. Diane Keaton almost refused to do it because it's such an outlandish thing given her age, like that she's expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But they were able to convince her to come back. Had she not come back, they were going to have the characters get divorced because she couldn't handle his stubbornness anymore. And then he was gonna get his new girlfriend pregnant and do it that way.
Wow.
I think it works.
know.
I think from a family story standpoint, it's better with the mother and the daughter going through it together, because you get that moment where the daughter's like, "I thought you were kidding. I thought it was just another joke, like when Dad dyed his hair." Like you get moments like that. So
Yeah.
So, yeah, I made myself sad when I was doing my research for this movie.
okay.
Why?
How?
So remember when he's getting his hair dyed, and this is perfect because this is the exact scene, and he's asking the lady, like who he's younger than, and they're like, well, like you're younger than Jack Nicholson by 7 years. And then she says, and you're younger than he says, I'm younger than Bill Clinton by like 38 days. And then he was like, oh, that's enough. I'm younger. That's all that counts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, I wonder what celebrities I'm like just a year younger than, within a year time frame. So like 4 months, 5 months, 10 months, like younger.
Okay.
So my brain goes, okay, so I need to look up for celebrities that are 1 year younger than me. And my dyslexic brain went flippy. And I decided to look up celebrities from that were born in 1986.
Okay.
Okay, so I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And so like I'm looking at the list, and it's like Megan Fox, Robert Patterson, Lindsay Lohan, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm like younger than some of these. And then I looked up, and I'm like, oh crap, I looked up celebrities from 1986. So I looked up celebrities from 1984.
Okay.
So those are all
And-
celebrities you're older than.
Well,
Yeah.
no, okay, so it was them I looked up first. See, I can't keep my head straight. It was them I looked up first. It was people that I was older than that I looked up first.
So I just looked up
No,
people.
yeah.
I just looked up celebrities who were born the year after me. Ironically, the first one on the list is Selena Gomez. Go figure.
That's funny.
We'll be talking
Yeah.
about her later on in the show.
So yeah, so I looked up these people, and I'm like, oh no, hang on a second, I'm older than all of them. So
Oh, yeah.
I looked up the ones that I was younger than. So then I looked up people born in 1984, and it was like Mandy Moore, Olivia Wilde, Prince Harry, Katy Perry. And this all made me kind of sad, because some of these people I thought were either way older or way younger than what I thought there were. And then that's when I did that like Saving Private Ryan morph, where Matt Damon turns into an old man standing at the grave. Yeah, so I made myself feel worse by doing that by accident. Like,
I don't.
even Lady Gaga, I'm older than.
Here's the deal. I don't ever love the whole like, because I've had this a bit when I was in Los Angeles, where people were like, "How old are you? 32?" You know, the Beatles released all of their albums by the time that they were 30. What are you doing with your life? Or like, "Oh, 32." At that point in his career, Steve Martin was already selling out auditoriums full of people. What are you doing? I hate that. I really hate that. Like, everyone's got their own path, man.
You know, you say when they bring up Steve Martin like that, and like he did so much more. Like you just look at them and go, "Well, excuse me."
Okay, that
I just
Steve
tell him
Martin,
I don't care about that.
Listen, that Steve Martin doesn't really come out in these movies, does he? Like, if I'm looking strictly at Father of the Bride or Father of the Bride 2, I think the funnier of the two, and probably because Steve Martin's largely playing the straight man, but I think the funnier of the two is Martin Short here.
Mhm.
Like, to go back to our original question, I think he's funny in this.
Yeah, the Franck character, the dynamic changes a bit, and I think I was trying to find the interview that I saw about this because with all of the dialogue about is Martin Short funny, like Franck has come up a lot because, and even in the SNL skit, they're like, he's doing an accent that's still okay, right? Like we're gonna say it's okay,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna say it's okay because it's ambiguous enough that, and the reason behind the accent is the joke with Franck in the first one is Nina and Annie can understand everything he's saying, and George just can't. Because he's so focused on the money side of things. Like that's the joke. Like everyone else understands what he's saying except for George.
Mhm.
By the time you get to the second one, George kind of understands him a little bit. Like it's kind of like he's speaking droid and understands it, or he's Groot. And the more you're around Groot, the more you become the family. So that's the joke, is that he doesn't understand him because he's not in on it. Like he's not part of that circle of we're planning the wedding. But when George is the one who invites him in to plan the wedding shower and build the baby suite, like that's when he brings him into the family, and that's when he starts becoming Uncle Franck.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an interesting way, like the fact that he's not defending the character, but he takes the time to explain the choices that they made for the character.
Yeah.
Says a lot about the work that they put into it. Like there is effort put in there. So it's like, we're gonna do an accent just to make accent. Like it's
right.
Like there's a reason for it. I do a horrible Franck, and I apologize.
It was good. No.
Yeah. Well, that, and it's ambiguous. And as far as I'm concerned, because I can't find anything that says any different, is that the foreign language that he speaks is completely made up.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when you watch this with subtitles, it just says speaking foreign language.
Exactly.
It doesn't give you like, Dutch or something. Like
No.
it's just it's just gibberish.
My favorite
Yeah.
part was I literally Googled what accent is he doing, because Ramon and I were having this thing when we were watching it where I was like, he's doing like a Hungarian or like an Icelandic accent, and she's like, no, he's clearly doing German. This is a German accent. So I Googled what accent is he doing. One goes, oh, his over the top German accent, and then the next article down was, oh, his over the top French accent, and I'm like, yeah, he's not doing any of them. Like
Yeah.
he's just
Yeah.
doing.
It's
vaguely
all of
European.
them in a
Yeah,
blender
it is. It is.
set to high. Yeah, it's all of them. It's such a mess that you can't make sense of it, and that's the joke.
So, is this? And I think this is what I was thinking of when I was watching the movie. Is the Franz character? Is he a stereotype? Not a stereotype, but like kind of a trope of comedies of this era. Because I think that I've seen this character, this flamboyant, vaguely European character, in a couple of movies, and it's definitely a thing. I think. Do you guys agree that it's a bit of a trope? Do you think that?
The flamboyant, like, wedding planner thing, or
Wedding planner, fashion designer, interior designer, like
I mean, it's a very of the '90s thing. I think.
Beverly Hills Cop's got one.
Yeah.
Like Shanghai Nights has got one.
Well, I would even consider, even though the character is a, like, I don't want to parody is the wrong word, of an actual person, the fashion designer from The Incredibles.
Yeah, Edna.
Edna Mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
like,
the thing is, this
like,
guy's
she's pretty much the same thing as this, and she falls into that same narrative. But I feel like there was an actual fashion designer that she's based off of, and in Gilmore Girls, they have the exact same characterish of that person that's in like the first season for like one episode, but still. So yeah, I think it's just like a arts stereotype personality thing.
Yeah. Like an artistic type. Like
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
let's get an artistic type and let's heighten it. Okay, we'll make him vaguely European and very flamboyant, and like that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just
Yeah.
flamboyant.
That's fair.
Because I've seen that too, where it's
Yeah.
not foreign, it's just flamboyant.
Did you
And-
think? Yeah.
And there's also his business partner played by BD Wong. Like they don't
Yeah.
say it because it's the '90s, but you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I
Um,
did you guys like this compared to the other versions of this kind of tropey thing? Because I did. I liked what they did with him.
it's not offensive.
No.
It's just comedic. Like it's not setting out to offend anyone. It's there to make you laugh and entertain you.
Mhm.
Because it's just ridiculous. Like the jazzercise, the collapsing under Steve Martin's weight in the foyer, like that. It's so physical. Like it's a mix of the voice. So you have the sound element, you have the visual element of it. It's like and then you have the dynamics with the other characters where he's like, so you have the physical, you have the physicality of it, the sound of it, and then the relationship of it. Like it works on so many levels that it's just pure entertainment.
I think that's why he worked for me a lot better in the second movie too. And I
Yeah.
like your analysis a lot of like he understands him now in the second one and why. That's a lot deeper than I thought, and I like that a lot.
Well, I think they did that in the. You're talking about George understanding. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even when you get to part 3-ish, which was a COVID skit that they did over Zoom, one of the jokes in there is Robert De Niro is the father of the bride now. Like, Maddie from these films is getting married over Zoom to his fiance from Tick Tick Boom, and the Barbie movie. And when Frank starts performing the ceremony, Robert De Niro's like, "Huh?" And Steve Martin's like, "Welcome to the party, bud." Like De Niro just doesn't understand a word out of Frank's mouth. and that's why, because they all have an understanding. Like, it's not even just Martin Short having the understanding of what the character is. It's Nancy Meyers as well, who wrote and directed that. So
yeah, I think that's a cool feature of that.
There are some funny moments in this that I quote a lot with my family. The roles thing being one that was a big hit for a while. But the other thing is, like, the other thing that I'll do occasionally is, do I know you? Like, after the prostate, like the weirdest thing about that one is, like, there's just a prostate exam room and they have a sign on the door. Like that was almost enough to take me out of the realism of the movie. It's like, I will take everything up to a point, but then that's like, okay, really? Like,
we don't need a whole room for this.
We don't need it. Yeah.
We don't need a whole room and a special doctor that just does that.
Exactly. All right. So, looking at the Franck character in Father of the Bride Part 1 and 2, and I guess 3-ish as well, is the character funny? Is Martin Short funny as Franck?
Yes. Yeah. Undeniably, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to say yes.
We also took a look at the SNL sketch. Ryan couldn't finish it.
No, I couldn't.
It's just
a shame.
It was. I like part 3. Ryan, check out the part 3 one that they did over COVID. I think you'll enjoy that a little bit more.
Okay.
I had the opposite. I love the SNL sketch way more.
I know you did, and I know that's how you would be. And I know how Ryan's going to be a little bit of a bigger fan of the heartfelt thing that they did over COVID. You're going to like hey, we're going to make fun of the ridiculousness of these movies.
Yep. Yep.
Because what is it? Father of the Bride Part 8?
Yeah,
like 7 divorces later or something like that. I mean, just some of the commentary were like, Kieran Culkin, did you forget he was in these movies? He's in Succession now. Good for him. Like,
I'm happy.
Yeah. It's funny watching these movies now after watching Succession.
Yeah.
Because it puts a whole new like, if you picture him, like, picture those characters from Succession, like in that age range. It's like, oh, that's weird. Like,
it is. Yeah.
Like they're just that much older than me and have that much more money than I do. All right. So we pulled a lot of things about a lot of other roles from Martin Short's career that we have graphics for. So we're going to go through them and do like a speed round of, do we think Martin Short is funny in this? Some of them we haven't seen in a while. Some of them, one of us asked for us to pull, and not the others. So one of us is going to have to defend them. The one that I did not get to pull a graphic for was the one Ryan asked for right before we went live for the first time 20 hours ago. Mars Attacks. I haven't seen Mars Attacks in a while, but I like everyone in that movie. So I'm going to say yes, he is funny in that.
Absolutely in that. Yes, for me.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he's the one that, tries to pick up the alien in the women's suit.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's very funny in this.
Yes. All right. Next, we have Three Amigos. This is the introduction to Martin Short and Steve Martin as a duo. Chevy Chase is there too, being Chevy Chase. But like Chevy Chase is sitting at the piano while Steve Martin and Martin Short are singing "My Little Buttercup" in a Mexican Mexican bar. I say yes, he's funny in this.
For me, undeniably funny in this.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember liking it. So
it hasn't aged well. There are elements of it that have not aged well. Chevy Chase being the least of them. But yeah, I think he is funny in this. Next we have Jiminy Glick. I have the poster up here for Jiminy Glick and La La Wood. Are you guys familiar with this character of Jiminy Glick?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. I almost had you guys watch Jiminy Glick in La La Wood because he plays Jiminy Glick in this, but he also plays David Lynch. So I was
Oh,
watching the
weird.
trailer as you guys were doing the Dune episode last week. I was like, maybe I just make them watch this. That's my Jimmy
Oh,
Glick
no.
impression. Jimmy Glick is a Hollywood movie critic who did celebrity interviews on a Comedy Central show in the early 2000s, and then they did a movie of it.
Wow.
It's very much what it's a extension of Martin Short as like. If you've listened to Martin Short on podcasts lately, where he's just like insulting Conan O'Brien for fun, it's an extension of that, but without it being Martin Short that you're looking at. Like it's this heavier, naive man who's just like, so tell me what is it like? Like it's like this whole shtick. And I like Jiminy Glick. I think he is funny as Jiminy Glick.
Okay. This seems like a Between Two Ferns the movie situation almost.
This is
Yeah.
I'm talking more about I like the character of Jiminy Glick.
Okay, you don't like the movie as much.
I've never seen the movie.
Oh shoot. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk about me. Like
I can't weigh in on this one. This
Okay.
looks like a hard. This looks like a hard sell for me based on the pictures I'm seeing.
I will have to send you some Jiminy Glick interviews.
Please do.
Next up we have Treasure Planet.
Yeah. So he
I
plays
don't
the
remember
robot.
who a character he was.
He plays a robot
Oh,
in
okay.
this one. This is one of my weird ones. I'm gonna say no. He's not funny in this.
Even though you submitted it,
Yeah. I'm listening. I'm throwing bombs out here, man. Like they're not
Okay.
all swings.
that's fine.
But
I'm just
I
saying
don't-
no because this is the movie where they breathe in space.
it's a bad reason. See, yeah. I think he's a little too much in this.
You know, that's one of the things that people have been saying about Martin Short is he is a bit much. That's my wife's biggest critique of him. He's like, he's too much. Like he's too loud. He's too in your face. And I was like, okay, I get that. Like he's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm going to not weigh in on this one because I've only seen the movie once in the last few years
Okay.
and I can't remember it well enough.
Okay.
Go
So
listen
the
to our
second
Treasure Planet episode to see what I thought.
Yeah, this is our first no for Martin Short then.
Yeah. All right. So the next one I pulled is Captain Ron with Martin Short and Kurt Russell. So this is Martin Short hires a boat captain to take his family on a let me look up the actual definition. The actual synopsis. What I know about this movie is it's different for him because he's playing the straight man.
It looks like he is.
So
everything I'm
Kurt,
seeing
Chicagoan inherits an old yacht. He, his wife, daughter, and son fly the Caribbean island to hire a dubious Captain Ron to sail them on an adventure to Miami. So he pretty much plays the George Banks to Captain Ron's Franck. Like,
Yeah.
Captain Ron, like a lot of things go wrong in this. He's just trying to keep it together, and I'm pretty sure he snaps by the end of it. But I just remember, like, it's a good example of him not going loud and being crazy the whole time. Like he does play the straight man in this, so the comedic straight man. So
is he funny in that for you then?
I think it shows range. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Okay.
I need to watch it again. It's been years, but
Have you seen this one, Ryan?
No,
okay.
I have not.
Good talk.
Okay.
All right. Next we have the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause.
Have you guys seen this?
No, I refuse.
No.
Okay, so I had recently said I hadn't, and then watched a trailer and went, "Oh yeah, I did watch this one." He's the best part of the movie.
Is he?
I genuinely don't like Tim Allen very much. He's the best part of this movie. I think he's very funny and is the reason to watch this movie.
When I looked at this poster, I was like, that's such a weird combination, but why does it seem familiar? I completely forgot the two of them were in Jungle to Jungle together. Where I think Martin Short also plays a straight man in that. Like he's like he's like the business partner assistant to Tim Allen, or like
I think
partner
you're
or
right.
something.
Yeah, I was almost going to bring that movie up, but I don't remember it well enough to
I don't either.
say whether I liked him in it. But no, this movie, he is funny. I will say that.
Yeah. Ryan, thoughts on the Santa Claus 3, the escape clause?
I've never seen it. So.
Okay.
Aw, you're missing out.
Meh.
All right. Finally, the last one we have is Only Murders in the Building. Ryan, have you watched this show yet?
No.
Okay. Devin, are you caught up on this show yet?
I am, I think, 2 episodes behind,
Okay.
but I'm basically there.
Okay. I watched the latest episode that dropped today,
Yeah.
right before this. I will say this about Martin Short's character. I mentioned before how my wife thinks Martin Short is a bit much.
Yeah.
This show won her over on Martin Short.
I think he's pitch perfect in this show.
I think they both are. Both being Martin Short and Steve Martin. Because the one thing that I appreciated with having just watched both Father of the Brides from the early 90s and then watching this is like Steve Martin has not skipped a beat. Like
No.
there's a moment in the latest episode where he's just performing this song and I'm like, he doesn't look like he's aged a day since 91. And the physicality is still there to a point. Like, I think the gray hairs probably helped him with that, but he's just as energetic and enthusiastic a performer as he was then. And I think Martin Short is the same. The two of them are both very funny on this show, but they also get to play the dramatic on here, and it's not something you get to see from them often. But yeah, this show, like they're the reason that this is one of my favorite shows on television. And I think Selena Gomez is also like a great foil to the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
She has succeeded where Chevy Chase failed.
I don't know if you have this, but Ramon and I definitely have moments in the show where we both turn to each other and we go, "Can we just be Selena Gomez? Can we just be best friends with these two, please?"
There was a moment where they turn to Selena Gomez in the show and say, "Oh, yeah, you're young, but you definitely give off old lady energy. Like, yeah, you're definitely like 70." And I was like, "Yeah, I feel that."
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this show. I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it. And I'm going to say yes, Martin Short is funny in this.
Oh yeah, me too. 100%. Undeniably very funny.
Ryan,
So
do you have any interest in Only Murders in the Building?
I would be so
Maybe
happy
it-
if you watched this.
Maybe at some point, but I think this falls into a category of why I was kind of dreading the original idea for this would be like us picking like our like favorite like Martin Short like times he showed up in shows or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was looking up, and I have his filmography up now for like acting, and the problem with him is that he was either like past the year like as of like 2000. Let's start with like 1997. Almost everything he's in is either geared to an audience that was either way younger than me because he did voice acting and some animated stuff, or stuff that would have been in my age group, but when I saw the preview for it, I was just not interested in it at all. So he was just one of those actors that a lot of the stuff that he was in was like a miss one way or the other.
Mhm.
Okay.
But one thing that stood out when I was looking this up was Kristen brought up the fact that her favorite thing that he did that she finds him hysterical in is Make-A-Wish, where he plays a fairy godmother.
Huh.
You heard that right.
Yeah.
A fairy godmother.
Part of like looking at his filmography, like not even just the stuff he's acted in, like part of me wonders if I'm such a big fan of his just from his talk show appearances. 14 appearances on the Tonight Show, at least with Jimmy Fallon. Just as many on Conan on TBS. Numerous award shows. Like, and like the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend podcast that he's been on, like, are just hysterical. So I think I know him more as a performer outside of acting than I do like acting. Because like looking through his filmography, I did struggle too with like finding something that I wanted to talk about that would fit the show. We got there with Father of the Bride Part 2, but
Yeah.
I think if you have Devin, if you haven't already, I recommend his audiobook, his memoir.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's called I Must Say, and the pictures of him being like, ha! Like,
I love that.
It's funny and it's heartbreaking because he talks about his wife who passed away. And he talks about Gilda Radner, who he was close with in the early days of SCTV and SNL. It's a very compelling book, and I highly recommend it. It's been years since I read it, but it's a high recommend for me.
I love that, and I'm really excited to read that because I find him so interesting. So here's something that you had kind of touched on that I'm really curious about, and we won't have to take too much time about this. What was the crux of the article that said that he wasn't funny?
Let me look it up.
Because while you're looking it up, let me tell you what I'm seeing, right? I'm seeing a comedian that started in the 80s, transitioned into the 90s, and is still funny today, and is still doing very funny, very good work today. Comedy as a platform and as a movie genre ages the worst and ages the fastest. And to see somebody successfully navigate several decades of a generally comedic career well, and still be considered very funny and not someone that gets lost in the 90s or that someone kind of rolls their eyes at, I think is incredible. And a great example of that, I think, is Adam Sandler, right? Adam Sandler comes out with a new movie. No one's really excited because, yeah, all right, we all remember Billy Madison and he was funny in Billy Madison, but we're all kind of over Billy Madison and that style of comedy, but he isn't. Martin Short keeps kind of reinventing that and making it current, and that's not nothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the article is on slate.com. It's called Why We Keep Putting Up with Martin Short. Is Only Murders in the Building star a comic genius or the most annoying actor on earth? So pretty much just talking about how this guy just doesn't think he's funny. And he pulls out specific characters like Ed Grimley, who was an SNL character that he did. I find Martin Short's whole shtick exhausting, sweaty, and desperately unfunny. Throughout his evolution from sketch comedy standout to uneasy movie star to twice failed talk show host to enthusiastic song and dance man, I've wrinkled my nose. I mean, he does a lot, and I feel like this guy's just like, yeah, it's not for me. And it's not, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Like,
fine.
Yeah, you don't need to go on and write a super long article about it. Like, this guy wrote a thesis on why he doesn't think Martin Short's funny.
But I think his statement of like the most annoying comedian of all time, like, is ridiculous in a world where we also still have Tom Green.
Yeah.
Daddy,
sorry
would
if
like
you
some sausage.
Yeah, sorry if you really loved Freddy Got Fingered. Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know,
So what is our consensus? Is Martin Short
Yes,
funny?
he's hilarious.
Absolutely.
Yes. Get out of here, Slate writer. Sorry.
Whenever I hear about like an opinion piece about humor, I can't help but think about a documentary I saw about humor and how they had Lewis Black on talking about how ridiculous it is to criticize humor or try to like throw critics into the mix when it comes to humor because it is so subjective when it comes to like your taste and what you find funny.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Like I said, I had one of the best
Lewis
nights.
Black.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had like one of the best nights watching Mike Birbiglia stand up. I talked to some coworkers about it and when I loved stand up, and they just go, I don't like stand up. And fair.
Yeah.
They're allowed
Yeah.
to not like stand-up. That's totally a valid opinion. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean I'm wrong.
I have to watch any stand-up special that I watch. I have to wait for Kristen not to be home because she can't stand stand-up specials.
Yeah, man, and that's fair. I'll watch stand-up specials on repeat.
Yeah. Comedy is subjective, and if he doesn't find Martin Short funny, that's fine by him.
Okay, I don't know.
but-
Now that we're talking about subjective comedy opinions, I have one quick question, and this might be
Yes.
unfair. What is the one thing that you find very funny that you understand that not a lot of people do? I'll start. Mine is I Think You Should Leave. It's a Netflix show with Tim Robinson. I think it's the funniest show, like, ever. And I'll bring Romana into the room and be like, watch this skit. And she'll be like 2 seconds and go, this is dumb and I hate this.
Wait. I'm trying to do something. Yeah.
Right? 99 burgers, 99 fries, 99 shakes. I love it. I think it's so funny.
I've only seen clips of it online, and I've liked a lot of what I've seen. I just haven't sat down and watched the show yet.
Oh,
I kind of
watch it on loop.
forget that I have a Netflix subscription sometimes. Ryan, how about you?
Netflix
How about
show.
you? What's the one thing you find funny that not many other people do? Did you answer?
That's tough. No, I
Okay.
didn't. It's just
Please-
it's
Please say baseball. Please say
really
baseball.
tough. Why? Why does that have anything to do with it?
I don't know. I'm throwing you a line, Ryan. I have no idea.
No,
It's a tough question, and it's a bit unfair.
it's a tough question because I need time to like sit down and like try to like, do I bring up a specific comedian that like is like kind of like on the edge that I find funny that a lot of people don't, or do I bring up like an old comedy movie that I know isn't that popular anymore? And like I could say Man with Two Brains because I know that movie has not aged well at all since that came
Yeah.
out. So I mean, I still find stuff like that funny. But it could also be like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I love corny comedies that are
That's-
like, yeah.
That's an incredible example. I mean,
Yeah.
not everyone's going to get the humor in that.
Yeah.
So-
For me, the comedy that I appreciate, but other people might not, and I get that, is myself.
Oh, I like your jokes, Alan.
But no, seriously, probably Weird Al. Like, I know the three of us like Weird Al, but there's not to say my wife, but my wife doesn't appreciate Weird Al as much as I do.
We're a bubble, us three.
Yeah. She definitely didn't appreciate him coming up in our best man's wedding speech.
I was proud of that wedding speech. By
No,
the way.
you should be. You should be. I kid. But no, I think something like that. Like I can get it. Like it's not for everyone. Like you, like I get excited when Amish Paradise comes on 90 is on 9, and she's upset that it's not Gangster's Paradise. Like it's like, yeah, but I gotta win a few. Like come on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right. So I think that does it for this week's episode.
Yeah.
Join us next week where Ryan, it's supposed to be your pick. Do you want to skip next week and just do Rogue One, or do you want to make that your pick?
Do we want the Star Wars fight next week, Ryan?
Yes, I do. Because
Okay.
I really need to bury this one last time.
I keep bringing this up. This is
Yeah,
like
I
my
know.
hard, fast opinion about this movie.
All right.
And
Well,
I think you need a second watch just to get it out of your system.
Good. Do it.
all right. So join us next week where we talk about Star Wars, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, right here on You Have to Watch This podcast. You can listen to us. You can watch us live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also listen to You Have to Watch This podcast on all major podcasting platforms the day after, or catch up on our older episodes on YouTube. If you did not catch it live on Facebook last week because it went to my page and not the show's page, Devin and Ryan did review Dune, so you can go check that out on our YouTube page and on our podcast feed. The 1984 Dune with by David Lynch.
Yeah.
But you guys talked about both of them, I think, a little bit.
we bridged
did,
the gap
yeah.
a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That and some of the book. Like, it was kind of like an all-encompassing Dune conversation.
Yeah, and I trolled you in the chat a little bit too. So
I loved it.
So yeah, join us next week for Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And until then, I'm Alan.
Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And may the Force be with you.